And so I'm going to go ahead and mix up a dark color. So I'll mix up my transparent oxide red and ultramarine blue. They are opposite of the color wheel since this transparent oxide red is kind of an orange, so this will mute them together. So I'm gonna just get a good amount going.
That's so deep.
And then I want to have a bit of a purple tone to it. So there's a few things that you could do with that, but I do really like this permanent violet medium from Rembrandt. So I'll get just a little bit of it. If you notice, I'm not grabbing quite as much as I was grabbing with the others. And then that way I can have a little bit of a hue and temperature here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and tone the canvas first. That way it's not on just white. I'm using some mineral spirits in here. Okay, I like to usually have like a paper towel or something right next to me. That way it's part of my workflow. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get some of this that I made. So if you look, that it's like nice and kind of dark, but I want a little bit more color in here instead of it just being super neutral. Using mineral spirits to kind of move that around. Okay, so now I have like a mid-tone neutral ground going. As I build up all of my colors, you can really intensify the whites, you can go darker, but it's nice to start with a middle tone. I don't always, like for example, on this one I didn't do that. I really just kind of used this part of the background as my tone. So there are different ways to do that. There's no right or wrong in my opinion, but for this, especially sort of the mood and everything with it, it's, you know, she's definitely very emotional. It's very emotionally charged, so I want to make sure that it's not bright and too happy. I want to really kind of relate that and put that into my work. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and kind of start blocking her in a bit. A few things that I like to make sure that I'm doing, I'm not like right up next to it because then you can't see the overall picture. I like to make sure that I am far back. That way I can really see everything going on. I like to kind of compare that to if you go to a movie theater. If you're in the front row, you can see the movie, you can see what's going on, but you're like going everywhere. And if you're like in the middle of the theater or in the back, you can really see the whole movie and have a better experience. So I think it's the same thing when I'm painting too. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm still kind of making sure that I'm gonna be looking at my study that I did as well. I'm also holding the brush in my hand like this as if it was kind of like a, you know, wand or something. Someone at a painting class of mine said that once. He's like, oh, it's like holding a Harry Potter wand. I'm like, I'm gonna use that. I love that. So I'm enveloping her first. So I'm just taking the biggest shape of her, which is the perimeter. And then I want to find my bigger shapes. So there's definitely her hair right there. And I'm not worrying too much about perfection. I'm just kind of laying puzzle pieces in. That way, as I go, I can move it around, but I'm not trying to commit too much right now. I really just want to make a posterized sort of version of her. So I'm just kind of getting everything laid in. And I am wearing a hat to like kind of bounce off and avoid some of the light that's hitting down. So if it's a bright environment, I'll do that. And I'm not really moving my wrist so much as I'm like letting my kind of arm and body be in charge of the movement. And I'm trying to be a little haphazard about, you know, my movement. I don't want it to be perfectly laid. Okay, let's start getting her. Starting off with basically her skull. I'm not worried about anything, all the little shapes. I want her whole entire like eye socket in there first. And the light's coming this way, so I don't. It's pretty evident. You can see the shadow on that side. And I'm just looking for shapes. You know, I know that I'm looking at a face, but I'm more focused on what shapes I'm seeing. Sometimes I forget I'm painting a person. I'm just trying to find the shapes, in the beginning especially. I'm seeing where things kind of line up. I'm constantly looking for angles that line up, plumb lines that are straight. Just constantly observing. And those are things that you can do all the time in life. And so you can tell that I need a little bit more room right here, so I'll use this to wipe it out. I only use this in the very, very beginning. The more I add in, the less that I'll use like a paper towel to wipe out. But in the beginning, I want to get this, also kind of get some of this light out as well, since those are the lightest parts. Back, and it can already kind of start creating form, even though it's just very basic and abstract right now. If you notice too, everything is pretty linear. I'm not curving anything too much. I like to keep things pretty straight to begin with. And her mouth is slightly open on here, which I think can seem a little scarier than it needs to be when you're painting or drawing. Less is more, so when I am attacking that or going to that, I'm just going to keep it fairly simple, so you don't need to avoid images or references or work that has the mouth open. I think it looks a little bit more compelling sometimes anyway, because we're usually talking, so we're rarely just have our mouths closed like that. So if we have it a little bit open in a painting, it seems a little more organic and natural, like that's, you know, there's conversation potentially going on, or kind of wipe some of that out there, just since this is the light is hitting on this side. Okay, and make sure that I'm looking over here too. I just realized, reminding myself, training myself. And also, this is all within your decision. So if you want to make it where she's even more exaggerated, like, you can definitely have fun with that. And those are great ways to have fun with drawing too, is to play with the emotion.